Episode 2 of the School of Transformation.
Let's make today the day that will transform your work, your health, and your life. You'll learn how at the School of Transformation. Welcome to the School of Transformation, where each week you'll gain insights from top performers and experts that will offer you their advice and strategies that can help you reach higher levels of performance. And now, your host, Bob Choat.
This week's guest has been a friend of mine for a while. Her name is Dr. Lori Shemek. She's the author of the book, How to Fight Fat Inflammation, and the best-selling book, Fire Up Your Fat Burn. She's very well known in the industry of health and fitness, and particularly weight loss. She's been a champion for people regarding healthy weight loss, which is very, very important. It's not just about weight loss, healthy weight loss. She's backed up a lot of which she's going to be talking about with research. And she's been featured in the Huffington Post. She's been on numerous radio, TV, Good Morning Texas being one, and she can tell you more. I just love to welcome Lori and just let her tell her stuff, her story, and everything like that, because it's an amazing story. So, Lori, thank you for being here on a second episode of the School of Transformation.
Well, Bob, thank you so much for that nice introduction, and thank you for having me. It really is an honor to be your number 2 guest, because I know you have a whole future of them coming up. Thank you again for inviting me.
Well, thank you for being here. With every single guest, I want to find out certain things about them. Their what, the greatest transformation, their why they actually went through it, and the step-by-step process.
Mm-hmm.
But before we get started in that, I want to ask you something. Is there a particular quote that you could tell our audience that's moved you, that resonates with you?
Yes, one that I've always loved, and I think it applies across the board. It's by Tony Robbins, and it says, "It is your decisions and not your conditions that determine your destiny." It's your choices in life. And I find that it resonates with me in particular on many levels.
Okay. And I'm sure you'll be able to explain a lot of that as we go through your own story and everything like that, especially in the what and the why areas.
Right.
Yes.
I will do that. Right.
So, Lori.
Yes.
Regarding your why, I would like to find out, and the audience would love to find out, what is the greatest transformation that you've gone through?
Well, the greatest transformation, I've been through many, but the greatest transformation was the death of my mother.
Okay.
That was the biggest one.
And can you expand on that?
Yes. So my mother's death sparked a huge transformation for me, one that would last really a lifetime to this day. And I guess I should give you my backstory.
Sure.
I was raised with a single mother and 2 younger brothers, and most of the memories that I have of my mother are of her being ill constantly with different health conditions. And so I was pretty much in charge of taking care of my brothers, and my mother unfortunately was sick all the time, and I remember her just suffering, laying there in the dark in her room, but there was nothing I could do about it. But I knew intuitively, even as a young girl, that my mother could make different choices, okay? And that's where this quote falls back on. And my mother's choices, of which she tried her best and she really did do her best that she could, but she had no support. She had no husband. She had no financial support. She had no family support. And you combine that with all of her health conditions and the stress. You can imagine the kind of stress one would be under trying to raise 3 young children all on your own. And my mother, she smoked a pack and a half of cigarettes a day. She was very overweight, and her diet was terrible. Sugar was the main focus of her diet. And so you can imagine, you combine all of that together, her quality of life was not good at all. I remember one day I walked into her bedroom. I looked over in the corner on her dresser was a bottle of vitamins. I'm telling you, I was elated. I was so thrilled because I knew my mother was starting to take care of her health and that we would have our mother back. And it was really a wonderful moment for me. And so every day I would walk into that room to see if she had taken any of the vitamins. And unfortunately, that bottle just sat there. It was never touched. It just sat there collecting dust. And soon after, my mother passed away at the very young age of 36, leaving behind three young children with nowhere to go. We had nowhere to go. And it was at my mother's memorial service that I had an aha moment, if you will. I realized right then and there that she did not have to die. I said to myself, she did not have to die. She could have made different choices. I realized that that's what I wanted to do with my life, even at that young of an age. I said I wanted to help other people. I wanted to help people make different choices. And I wanted, most importantly, to help them know that they have choice to make. Because my mother is not unlike many people. They will throw their hands up in the air and feel like this is the hand they've been dealt. This is what's been given to them, and there's nothing they can do about it. And it's different levels. It could be with your career. It could be with your weight, for example, your health. And in my mother's case, it was with her health and her personal life. I did just that. I learned the value of choice at a very young age. I understood it completely, that we are all free to make really good choices or really bad choices or somewhere in the middle. And I realized also that in order to make change, it has to come from deep inside. It has to come from you, that we are the only person who can really create meaningful, lasting change in our life. Nobody else is going to do it for you. And I remember I put a tweet out, and I said, "Who is going to take care of your health?" I said, "Who's going to take care of you if your health fails?" And this man responded, "My wife." And my point is that it's really up to you to make sure that you take care of you. These are all little transformations and realizations that I've learned along the way from being a young girl.
Okay.
And yes, were you going to say something?
No, well, just adding to that,
Mm-hmm.
that's one of the reasons when you mentioned the Tony Robbins quote earlier regarding choices, every one of us are at choice at every given moment, correct?
Absolutely right. Yes.
And we make a decision that's going to take us one way or another. We could even make a decision of not making a decision, of not
Right.
doing something. Regarding your mom, that was her choice of not taking care of her health.
Right.
Let me
Exactly.
Yeah,
And
let me ask you
mhm,
regarding that and regarding choices and your mom. Albert Bandura was famous for his studies in
mhm,
self-efficacy, right?
right.
Yes. And how does that correspond with a lot of people? Let's say, for example, your mom and her choices and her decisions. Were there a certain unknown, a fear that could have led her to doing that, or something else?
I think it was that she felt like she had no control in her life,
Okay.
that her life, her health, and her personal life were shot. And
Mm-hmm.
she felt like there was nothing that she could do. And as a young child, I knew that she for sure could stop smoking. And I knew for sure she could clean up her diet and other things. I think that people get comfortable with being uncomfortable. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
They get stuck and they don't realize that there are certain things that they can do. You know, it's really interesting that one of the things that I've learned since that turning point in my life, my mother's death, I've learned that success and failures and change really aren't the result usually of one single event. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's really just a string of small decisions. Again, going back to that quote, that's why I love that quote so much, and why for many, many years I had it on my email signature, because it really is. It's about one simple step, one small step. In fact, on Twitter this morning, I even tweeted about small steps and the importance of them. And that's really, if you can do one thing in your life to move you forward, do that one thing. It doesn't matter what it is, but everything is about energy and momentum.
Yes.
And that's really what I learned even at a young age.
Yeah. Very smart. You were able to have that kind of insight, that perception at that young age to see what your mom was doing.
Right. I think, when you're put in a situation like that, we were pretty much in charge of ourselves. I was the quote mother, if you will, for my two younger brothers. And I think that when you're put in a situation like that, you can see contrast more clearly because you have to, and you become more resilient. Essentially was taking care of my mother most of the time. Not all of the time, but most of the time.
So in a sense, you became your mother's quasi guardian.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Why do you think that you went through this process? Why, if you can explain in your own mind, why do you think that you went through all that?
Well, I could have gone two different ways. I could have gone down the path of choosing a different path, if you will, a not so great path. And trust me on this one, there's never a linear path to any success or any position in life. It's always, twists and turns and looks like a bunch of squiggles on a piece of paper, right?
Yes.
The point where you are. I think when I grew up with my mother again, and it was very chaotic, and I was abused and beaten, and we didn't have food. And my brother and I were just talking the other day about how we had to resort to eating dog food. And yet at the same time, I was able to look at the really good things about my life too. But I think going through all of those struggles and challenges really allowed me to create resilience. And there's a theory that children are either born resilient or they're not. And I'll never know, but I think that when you're put in a position like that, you learn resilience typically.
Yes. In fact, there's a term called post-traumatic growth. And we had discussed that, me and you, and I know that you understand that term. And it sounds like that's kind of like what you went through, was where you were and what you went through created post-traumatic growth instead of post-traumatic stress disorder.
Right. Yeah, that's a great differentiation. I like to think that we all learn from the challenges that we're faced. But you see some people that go down a different path and they're not happy and they stay stuck. But eventually people do learn. And I think they grow. We all, and that's what this show is about. It's about growth, transformation. So I think that the more you're exposed to challenge, the more internal focus in terms of locus of control that you have, I think that you will be fine. You will do just fine.
Yes. Sometimes it takes people a lot longer to get there. You had it at such a young age that, again, the way you explained it is that you, in essence, had to take control. You had to grow up so you could take care of your two brothers and your mom at the same time, even though one of your brothers is not that much younger than you. You stepped up to the plate. You took control, and that seems to be the way you've run your life.
Right. Yeah. It's interesting because my mother now, she wasn't like bedridden. She was out there and doing things off and on, but mostly she wasn't well. And my brother struggled with his relationship with my mother, as we all did. But he's now at a point in his life where he's doing great and he's really moved forward. But it's very challenging. I think he went through some post-traumatic stress.
Yes.
Himself, for a while there. But it's all it's really a happy ending, if you will, because in my eyes, I feel like if I hadn't gone through those events in my life, then I wouldn't be the person that I am today.
Yeah.
I really believe that I'm here, I'm put on this earth to help other people, and I have an empathy that that I feel comes from going through those experiences.
Yeah, I agree. And that's what makes you an amazing coach that people seek out to help because
Thank
of
you.
what you went through. And you can see what other people are going through in their struggles and being able to help take them from where they're at, if they're in a deep, dark hole, to finding that light, finding their path and everything.
Right.
You know, especially in the area of weight loss, yet you're much more than just helping a person lose weight. I mean, your background includes your training in life coaching and psychology, as well as in nutrition and weight loss.
Right.
Yes. Yeah. So you have a multi experience, which is really good. Instead of just being focused deeply in one area, you
Right.
all these other areas, I think is very, very important.
Right. And my goal is like you are doing with your coaching as well, and with this program that with your podcast, is trying to help people transform, and that it comes intrinsically, it comes from within, and it's not outer based.
Mm-hmm.
So that when you transform, it's real, it's meaningful, and it's lasting. And I think that when people turn on any kind of learning podcast or they read motivational books, for example, it's very important. And it really is, if they take action, transformational.
Yes. I know that you've worked with a lot of clients and everything.
Right.
And based on your background and your experience, is there an example of a client that you've been able to be able to see through without naming any names? Just give me a broad overview of clients or clients that you've been able to, in essence, deep dive, being able to see things and help guide them out.
Yes, I had a client who, when he started with me, weighed a lot, and he was over 400 pounds. And he, I could see that his resistance to life in general was the obstacle. He obviously had issues that were preventing him from excelling in terms of his health and his weight. It turned out that he obviously was teased as a child, was bullied as a child. And it turned out that once we broke through those barriers, that I dug deep and we understood what was really going on, he began to change. And he was really a grumpy guy, when I first started working with him.
Mm-hmm.
But by the time we ended our sessions, and I worked with him for, I would say about a year, he had lost an enormous amount of weight. He had dropped probably about 75 pounds, and he did just phenomenal with everything in his life. He became an exerciser, and he began to choose. I would go to his house, and he had his cupboards were pristine. His refrigerator was pristine in terms of the types of foods that I wanted him to stock his refrigerator and cupboards with. He changed completely in every way. And now I'm happy to say that he's continued to stay on that path. He's down to a good 200 pounds, and he is off his medications. He is off his blood pressure medication. He's doing fantastic. So he's an example of somebody whose past got in the way.
Yes.
And he didn't know it. He did not realize it at the time.
Good. And it sounds like he did it the smart way with your guidance. And it wasn't like he did like a Biggest Loser kind of loss right away.
Exactly.
It was steady and it was smart.
Right.
Yes. Lori, now we're going to get to the how. And the how is, if you can give me just it could be 3 tips, 3 strategies, 3 things that our listeners can apply into their own life that will help them get better results. What are those 3 things?
In terms of health?
In terms of health weight loss, could be anything along those lines.
Okay.
That's going to help them to improve the quality of their life.
Right. Well, I would say that one of the first things I would like for people to do is to drink more water. And that's because most Americans are mildly dehydrated. And once you start drinking water, your cellular function becomes more alive, if you will. When our cells are deprived of water, cellular function slows down, and then so does your metabolism. The second thing in terms of health and weight loss I would recommend is to avoid sugar, no moderation, because you can't ingest something that's inflammatory and get away with it, really. Most Americans ingest, the average American, 156 pounds of sugar a year, and that's added sugar. Research just came out recently, just last week, showing evidence for the first time, there's always been that theory, but evidence for the first time showing that sugar is connected to Alzheimer's disease. Drop the sugar. And then the third thing is, I would like your listeners to know that we each have the power within us to create the life we love, the kind of life we want to live. And that can be in any area of life across the board. So you have the power, you just recognize you have that power, and then take action on it, and you can do it.
Fantastic. I love the 3 tips. Again, the first tip, and we can go over a little bit more, drink more water, because in fact, that just triggered me to drink more water. I just had some water now. Well, yes. And I know that I've been guilty of not drinking enough water at times, and thanks for the reminder, Lori, on that.
Welcome.
Avoiding sugar implicated in obesity and diabetes and other factors. It's also been implicated now in Alzheimer's. Right. And there was another study that recently came out that our brain will take glucose and convert it into fructose. And it helps to, what it passes, they've been trying to figure out why does it pass the blood-brain barrier.
Yeah, and for your listeners, fructose is lethal when it comes to, especially in excess, when it comes to liver health and weight loss. So just so that they know that.
Yes, we have the power within us.
Yes.
Take control, learn to take control, and there's a lot of different ways being able to do that. I know that I journal and you journal, and you recommending journal all the time. And that's one way. There's a number of different ways. Lori, again, has, with her coaching and what she does with her clients and helping them not only through these 3 steps, taking back your life. And her coaching has been able to do that. Her book, How to Fight Fat Formation, is on Amazon.com. It's a great book, and I happen to get a signed copy from her, which is great. Lucky me. You can also grab her previous book, Fire Up Your Fat Burn, and both books are available on Amazon.com. And Lori,
yes,
if our listeners want to get a hold of you, what's the best way?
Well, they can find me at drloryshemek.com, and they can find me on Facebook, Dr. Lori Shemek. I have a page there where I post daily tips for everybody in terms of optimal health and weight loss. And the same on Twitter. I'm Lori Shemek on Twitter. And again, posting multiple tips daily so that you can live a happier, healthier life. And also, again, you can find my book, How to Fight Fat Formation, anywhere books are sold.
Yes. And by the way, those of you that grab her book, How to Fight Fat Formation, you'll be invited to join her special Facebook group. Fat Formation group is what we all call it. So you'll be invited to participate in that and experience the journey. And I will highly, highly, highly recommend those of you that are going through the challenges with your weight to look Lori up and at least get a session with her as a coach. And she gives above and beyond in terms of what she does. So I can't say enough in terms of recommending her.
Thank you, Bob. Very nice.
You're very welcome. And thank you for being a guest on the show. You're
thank
wonderful,
you.
great tips and everything. I love your story and everything that you went through.
That means a lot. And I've been looking forward to it, and I'm so excited about your new show. It's going to be great. It's already great. You're doing fabulous.
It's
Yeah.
fun, and enjoy doing this, and I enjoy having guests like you on and Jeanette, and I look forward to having you on in a future episode and
Well,
even
thank
possible
you.
co-host.
Well, I'd love to, and congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for tuning in to today's episode number 2 with Dr. Lori Shemek. Go to drlorishemek.com to grab her great information that she has located on her site. And go to bobchoat.com to grab the ultimate self-confidence cheat sheet. The School Transformation is at theschooltransformation.com. Again, thank you.
Thanks for listening to the School of Transformation podcast. You can find us at bobchoat.com and make sure to grab the ultimate 10-step self-confidence cheat sheet.